So I've been playing this hero shooter game recently called Marvel Rivals, and even before I started playing this game, I've been keeping up with the development and what characters they have added to the game. It's my favorite part of the game is to kind of get to learn about these new characters, and sometimes they're obscure. And when they added an obscure character, that's when I get really excited because I get to do so much fun research and everything about new characters from Marvel that I've never even heard of before. And as a Marvel fan, that's really exciting to me. So I today am going to give you guys my wish list with some characters that you would probably expect to be added to the game eventually, and some more obscure characters that I think should get their time in the spotlight. So let's jump right on in. The first character I want in the game has been leaked and rumored for the next update, and I'm really excited for it because it's White Fox. She is a character that I had no idea even existed in Marvel, and I really just hope these leaks are true. Because if these leaks are true, I can go and do all my research about this character. I probably already will, to be honest. I probably will do research and watch videos, and I'll have a lot of fun with it. But I really want them to add White Fox. She looks like a really cool character. Look, there's a lot you could do there, a lot of good creative liberties, and she's been rumored to be a melee strategist, which sounds really interesting. So I'm really curious to see how she plays, and I want them to add more characters like this. The other character that has been leaked for the game is Black Cat. I know about Black Cat already, and I'm not all too interested in Black Cat, but I think they could do an interesting kit with her, and I think she'll be fun to play as well. But anyways, on to no longer leaks, but my wish list. And we're gonna start off with teams. And the first team I think is missing just a few members to complete it is the Avengers. For the first Avenger that I think needs to be added for the team is Vision. Vision is a very iconic Avenger now. He could be either a tank, or a strategist. Make him something interesting. We have too many duelists in the game, so I think there's a lot of creative liberties you can take with Vision. You can make him phase through things. He has lasers. He's kind of like the MCU's version of Superman. So maybe he would be best as a tank. But there's a lot of different routes they could go with Vision, and I think there's a lot of different opportunities with him. For the second character that they should add from the Avengers is War Machine. Now, I don't want him to be a clone of Iron Man. I kind of think he should be a tank. And maybe you keep him grounded for most of the time. Maybe he has like a temporary fly mode. But he would be good with all of his big guns and his arsenal. And he would work really well as just a good tank. And I think War Machine really should be added to this game eventually. And for the next characters in the Avengers that should be added eventually is Ant-Man and the Wasp. Now, you could do something interesting with them. You could make them like a swappable character, like how Cloak and Dagger are in this game. Maybe the Wasp can go tiny and Ant-Man can go bigger, or you could just like have Ant-Man and he could have both his abilities going small and going big. I don't know. Either way, both the Ant-Man and the Wasp are very iconic Avengers, and you should definitely have both of them in the game, and it would be very unique too because there's no other character would have the ability to go small or whatever, you know. It'd be an interesting balance, and it would be a really fun character to play. So I think Ant-Man and the Wasp should definitely come to the game, whether they're separate or together. I don't really care, but there's a lot of potential with these two. And maybe Ant-Man goes like really giant for his ult, and he becomes like a tank. I don't know. There's just so much potential with Ant-Man and the Wasp, and they should come. They should come soon. Another Avengers character they should add is Falcon. Now I want Falcon as the red-winged Falcon, the one where he, not the MCU one, essentially more the comic book style of Falcon, and I think he could come into the game. Maybe he could have Red Wing as like a partner. He would be a good flying character. Maybe he'd like shoot his wings at you, and that he there's a lot of good potential. I think he'd be a DPS. I don't really see him being a tank. Maybe he could be a strategist, but yeah, I think Falcon should come. And if they had these couple Avengers, I think the Avengers team will start to feel really really complete, and it'd feel like we have a full Avengers roster. But now for a more obscure character in the Avengers that I think should be added eventually is Stingray. Stingray is a marine biologist turned superhero, so he should be added to the game. I think it'd be cool to see him in the spotlight. There's a lot of potential. Maybe he could stun. Maybe he could have some sort of swimming power related. I don't know, but I think Stingray is the exact kind of obscure Marvel character that should definitely make it into this game. And that's it for my Avengers. And moving on, next in line is the Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, I think in order to complete this team, it's very, very obvious who they need to add. They need to add Drax and Gamora. I think Drax would be a good tank, and he would be. I think a sword tank would make a lot of sense because you need to be on the point. You need to be taking space, and you're gonna get close up and personal with the enemy team anyway. So a sword tank would make a lot of sense for Drax, and Gamora could be kind of like how Magic is, but I mean she could be a lot different in Magic. There's a lot you can do with a sword character, and I think she would be a perfect addition to the game as well. For the final character they should add from the Guardians of the Galaxy is Yondu. Now, Yondu could be a really interesting character. They could have it so he controls his arrow within a certain radius of him, so maybe he like hides behind the wall while he controls his arrow to do good damage to the team. Yondu would make for an interesting character. You definitely have to do something unique for Yondu, and it would force him to do something interesting, and I think that could be quite fun. Now, before I talk about the final team that I'm going to do today, I'm going to quickly mention the Inhumans. The Inhumans haven't had any members join the Marvel Rivals yet, so I think if they do any of the Inhumans, they should start off with Black Bolt and I believe her name's Medusa, or I forget her name, but the red-haired girl who controls her hair. Make her You can make her like a tank and like Black Bolt like a DPS or like a support potentially. But another character that should add from the Inhumans should be Trident and Lockjaw. There's just so much potential of these characters, and I think these characters should definitely be added to the game eventually, and you should complete this team as well. Now, for the final team I want to talk about today is the X-Men. Now, the X-Men has so many potential characters that they could add to this game. It's kind of crazy. But the three main ones that almost certainly will be coming to this game at some point, and I think they'll make good kits, and I want to see them soon, will be Beast, Cyclops, and Professor X. Now, specifically, what I want from Professor X is I want him in the yellow wheelchair. I've seen designs for him in his standing up variant or whatever. I don't I don't want that. I want the big goofy yellow wheelchair so he can go around in that. It would really just be perfect, and he'd be an interesting strategist, or maybe since he has this big bulky chair, he'd be a tank. Uh, but I definitely don't want to see him standing up. I want to see him in his chair. But now for Beast and Cyclops, they, I think they're Beast might be probably a tank, or he could be a strategist because he is a kind of like a pacifist. But for Cyclops, he would most certainly have to be a DPS. I mean, maybe you could make his lasers heal. I mean, Marvel Rivals tends to take a lot of liberties with their healing characters, so I mean, it would make sense for that to happen. But I think he would most certainly almost would have to be a DPS, and I think it would work really well for him. Another X-Men character that is almost certain to come to this game eventually is Nightcrawler. Now, Nightcrawler would be a very, very fun character with his teleports and with his... he could have his, like, little swords that he sometimes has. I think he would kind of play like Magic does. I don't see a world where they don't add Nightcrawler to this game, so he really should have been included in my previous list as well. Now for other X-Men characters that they should add, I'm gonna probably just be talking about the younger, new, like, X-Men recruits usually is how they're portrayed. Like, for example, one of them that I have listed down is Jubilee. She could be a fun strategist or DPS with her, like, firework abilities. Maybe she could, like, have bubble gum that she pops out and heals people with as a strategist. There's just a lot of potential and a lot of interesting ways you could portray this character, and she would definitely be a good fit for this game. Another character from the X-Men that I have, like more of a younger X-Men, is Armor. Now, I've heard a good idea for Armor, for her being like a tank. Like, she has, of course, her cynetic armor. I forget what it's called, but she has her armor, and essentially it has like its own little shield, and she can't like be damaged until her armor actually breaks. And once her armor breaks, then she could be damaged and probably be killed fairly quickly. But she would have a lot of... It'd be kind of like the Hulk. You know how the Hulk is? He has his Hulk form, and then when he goes out, he transforms into Bruce Banner. Well, she would just, like, lose her armor, and she'd just be, like, just her regular self, which would be very, very killable, very vulnerable, and she may have a few different abilities based on that, but it'd be a kit mainly focused around keeping up your armor and keeping up your defenses. Another young X-Men member that I have on my list is Kitty Pryde. Kitty Pryde can phase through objects and walls and whatnot, so it'd be really interesting to see how this character would translate over to Marvel Rivals, and she'd be an interesting character. I don't know how they would even do a kit where you can just constantly phase through walls. Maybe she'd just have to be like a strategist and a healer who can like easily get away. Maybe she'd be a DPS, potentially. I don't know. There'd have to be some limits on it, and she could either be like the most overpowered character ever, or like very underwhelming. So it'd be interesting how they would balance a character like this, and I would like to see it in the game eventually. Another young X-Men member that they should definitely add, it would be interesting to kind of see him come back to the spotlight a little bit, would be Spike. Now, Spike is an interesting case because he originates from a TV show, not a like comic book, and he eventually gets adapted to the comic books later, kind of as an older, more mature version of the character. So he's an interesting character. You can make him a DPS, or you could actually make him a tank, because I believe later in the show, I haven't watched this show yet. I'm planning on it once I get through the original X-Men show. I'm gonna probably come back and watch this one, because I want to watch all the X-Men shows. So that's just something I'm doing right now. But he could be a tank with this form that I've seen him pop up in. So I mean, whatever they want to go for with this character, it'd be cool to see him kind of get some more love. Another X-Men young character that should be added to the game is Sunspot. Now, he also has been getting a lot of popularity now with the new X-Men 97 remake of the show, which I have watched, and he's a really cool character in there. So he'll probably have even more time in the spotlight in the next season, because is that next season coming out this year? I think it is. So potentially Sunspot might have a place in this game sometime soon, but they are doing the Avengers timeline stuff, they are still adding different characters that aren't like from the MCU, like White Fox and Black Cat potentially. I mean, from rumors. So I don't think this year has to be exclusively MCU characters, but I do think they could, they probably might focus more on that potentially if they're leading up to Doomsday. But I don't know, Sunspot could come relatively soon. I could see it happening, and he would be a good DPS. Um, Probably he would probably be a flyer, to be honest. Now for the final young X-Men member that I'm going to be talking about is Pixie. Pixie has a lot of options. She has her illusion, she has her little knife, and she can obviously she can fly, and she can teleport. So there, just that alone, there's so many options for a kit that could happen with her. So many options. I don't know what you do with her. She'd probably be a strategist, because kind of like fairies and fairies heal, and the illusions kind of sounds something more strategic that you'd want to do. Now for a few more mutant characters that I would like to see added to the game. Number one being Quicksilver. I mean, you could argue that sometimes he's portrayed as an X-Men, but most of the time he's not, and he's kind of like in the brotherhood of evil mutants or whatever. So but Quicksilver would be such a cool character. He would have a speed kit, obviously. Maybe he has like an after image that can do damage to people, so he has to like run around to actually do damage. Could be really interesting. Quicksilver's the obvious choice for this game, and he should come eventually. You can make some good team ups, maybe with like Wanda and Magneto for like siblings and the parent team up, And there's just so much you could do for this character. And another mutant character that should come to the game is Miss Marvel. She should come as her mutant counterpart, not the MCU counterpart. Uh, she could have stretchy powers. I mean, you might argue that that could be too similar to a kit like Mr. Fantastic, but you can do more unique, interesting stuff. Like stretchy parts are like, there's just infinite creativity with it. So you could definitely make another stretchy character that's not a copy of Mr. Fantastic. But yeah, Miss Marvel, she's so iconic. She's like Spider-Man level iconic, so I'm surprised she's not already in the game already. And of course, if we're talking about Miss Marvel, we gotta talk about her inspiration, Captain Marvel. Now, Captain Marvel, I'm more surprised that she's not in this game yet. She is very iconic Marvel character. Now, if I said Vision was like the Superman counterpart, Captain Marvel is definitely like the Superman counterpart of Marvel. So I'm just really surprised she's not in the game yet. She would make for a good tank. She'd probably be like a flying tank. I don't know how you would balance that. I mean, they did Angela, but she's really different for a tank. Another member that is like kind of part of the Avengers is Shang-Chi, and he would be a really interesting character. He would have a kit based around his rings and the powers of his rings. His movie from the MCU was great, so I think is this year actually might be a great time for Shang-Chi to make his return, because he sounds like he's gonna play an important role in Avengers Doomsday. So maybe he makes his debut this year, but there's just a lot of interesting ways you could do this character. He'd probably be like a DPS, and I could see him also being a strategist though. The whole magic ring concept is really cool. I really think you could get a lot out of this character. Another character that needs to come to the game eventually is Silver Surfer. Now, Silver Surfer would be an interesting. He could be a tank or a strategist. So many of these characters on my list could be either tanks or strategists. I think that those two character roles are just way more interesting than DPS ever is. Sorry for my bias, but I don't know. He could like reflect attacks. He could also be a DPS. He could be any of the roles actually. I could see it, see that happening. But he probably take and reflect attacks with his surfboard. He has, of course, he can fly. He'd be a fun character, no matter what role you put him as. Now, before I get into my top 3 most wanted characters, I have one character here that I just kind of learned of recently, and she's pretty cool. She's former villain turned hero, kind of. Her name is Songbird, formerly known as Screaming Mimi, I believe. And she uses her voice and her screams to, as her powers, and kind of similar to Black Bolt. She can fly. I feel like this is the kind of obscure, interesting character that Marvel Rivals would add to the games. Now, she could either be a strategist, but I see her more probably being a DPS character. Now, as for my top 3 most wanted characters, and I want to come to Marvel Rivals eventually. For number 3, I want Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur to come to the game. I thought they were going to come to the game this season next season, because of the collector map and how they tease what Devil Dinosaur looks like. Honestly, he looks perfect in there. In his little cage, he could be like a tank, and Moon Girl could be like a strategist, or you can have them together. I think that would also work out really well if you have a dual character. But these 2 characters definitely need to be in this game eventually. Now, for my second most wanted character to come to the game, I want Kahori to come to this game. Now, if you don't know who Kahori is, she is a Marvel character that originated in the What If Season 2. I think it was Episode 7. That'd be crazy if I got that completely correct, but I didn't do any research on that. I remember watching this episode, and I thought it was great. She just has the powers of the Tesseract. She can like move really quick, make like light come out of her hands and whatnot. She'd probably have to be a support or a DPS, one of those 2. But I think Kohori is a new and interesting character, and I would love to see more of this character, and I think she's really cool. And now finally, for my most wanted character in this game, like, I really think this character should come to the game. He's not very popular. I only ever appeared in a one show, Marvel show, and that was a kid's show. And this character is honestly just really sick. His name is Reptile, and he can like transform into dinosaurs. He can like transform like his whole body into a dinosaur, or he can transform like his legs into like raptor legs, or give himself like a Tyrannosaurus tail, or like a T-Rex head. And there's just so much you could do around a kit of just dinosaurs. So there's so much potential for this character. He seems like a very obscure character that Marvel Rivals would add. He's perfect for this game. He would probably have to be a duelist character. I don't see him being a support. I don't really see him being a tank. But he would be practically perfect, and I would imagine like his ultimate when he could like turn into a giant T-Rex and like stampede through everything. So yeah, I really want Reptile to come into the game. He is just such a cool character, and I want to see him get more love and potentially even be adapted into more Marvel properties. So I think Marvel Rivals could give this character the spotlight he so rightfully deserves, in my opinion. Overall, I would also just be really happy with any character I personally don't know coming to the game, because as long as they're like cool, because I love going and doing all my research on obscure Marvel characters, and any character that's added to the game that I get to go do that research on makes me very, very happy. Like how Elsa Bloodstone was added recently. I had no idea who Elsa Bloodstone even was, and turns out she's actually a really cool character. If you haven't done your research on her, I would recommend. She's pretty sick. So I'm so happy that Marvel Rivals actually cares and they add obscure characters and not just like all the big major ones. And of course, the big major ones will probably bring a lot of people into the game, but I'm so happy that every time they add a new, more obscure character to this game. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed my list of characters and you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It would really help my YouTube career kick off, and I would really love and appreciate it. I plan on doing more videos in the future, so please like and show your support. Thank you so much. Goodbye.